We just made 44 grand in 3 weeks. It didn't take any of our own cash, and I'm gonna show you our strategy for free. We bought this house for $145,000. It's not technically a house, it's a duplex. So 2 units that are attached to each other. We resold the property for $208,000 after doing just 5 grand worth of work, which was by no means the full remodel. We did some landscaping and trashed out what was left on the inside. One of the interesting things with this project is the folks actually sold it to us for less than they paid back in 2019. I don't know about your market, but if it's anything like 2020 through 2022 in most markets, things had gone up pretty dramatically. This property, however, they really hadn't done much with. In fact, it had kind of just gotten run into the ground a little bit. I'll even show you some of the old listing photos up on screen so you can see what we got versus what they originally bought. Now, I run CCF, which is what's behind me on the wall here, and that's a mastermind group to teach folks in real estate how to build businesses around this. But if you're just looking for your first or next deal, I'm not going to gatekeep. I'm going to show you exactly how we got this place. The first thing that you're going to need to pull off a deal like this is Propstream. Propstream's $100 a month, and they provide a free 7-day trial. They're one of the tools we're an affiliate for. I have paid for Propstream since back in like 2014. I've made more money off of their data than I can realistically tally up. So when you log into Propstream, your screen is going to look like this. This particular list was simply on a duplex with equity list. So you got the search box up here where you're going to punch in what your market is. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to use Indianapolis. Next, we've got this filter section here. Simply going to tap that, and then we're going to go into property details, residential, all. And what we're looking for is down here in multifamily is just duplexes. Now, your market might do this, which is 0. Well, I know there's not 0 because this worked. So if that happens, what you're going to do is go to multifamily 2 to 4. We'll notice there's 10,362 of them. I'm going to go into property details down to number of units. I'm going to do a max of 2. What that will do is remove out all of the triplexes and quads. The reason we're doing that, we're going to use an asset-specific postcard that I'll show you in a second that calls out just the duplexes. So we can see we've got 8,000 properties that are 2 units. What we've got to do next is add in an equity filter. Equity simply means they owe less on it than the place is worth, meaning if I'm hoping to buy it at a discount, they can actually afford to sell it to me. I always do an equity percentage of 35 to 100%, and we can see that's going to cut down this list size quite a bit. So we're down to about 7,200. Next thing that we're going to want to do is cut out the places that are owned by corporations. Typically, if somebody's buying a whole bunch of properties inside of a company, probably not going to want to sell that place at a discount, let alone for cash. So we're going to focus on the folks that are individually owned properties. So we're going to go into ownership information here, and we're going to do individuals and trusts. And that'll probably cut it down even further, down to roughly 4,000 places. Now, in order to save that list, we would simply check this box, go actions, save, and pick the name of that list. However, I don't need to do that because I've already done it. And I'm going to prove to you guys that this is what I actually did. Right here, I've got that list of duplexes that I saved back in February, kind of the 9 counties that we operate in central Indiana. And I also want to show you here, if I punch in the street address, boom, there is the property that we ended up buying. People that aren't in real estate assume that we're looking for like desperate, dumb people to take advantage of, but that's simply not the case. We're looking for people that want to trade equity for an easy transaction. These folks were well off. They were also aware of the fact that they hadn't really maintained the property and it was in worse shape than what they bought it for. Thus, it probably wasn't going to sell for a premium. Now, if you're not an idiot, I do want to point out we're in October. And this was a campaign we did back in February. This is actually the second deal that we pulled from this campaign of roughly 4,500 postcards. Once we've got our list saved, we want to pick what mail piece to send these folks. I'm going to go over to ballpointmarketing.com, which is the mail house that I own. It's also where all of my mail deals come from. Now we've got a new site. So if you're used to the old one, I recommend using the search function here. And I'm just going to punch in what it is that I'm looking for, which is the duplex postcard. That is this guy right here. So the duplex postcard calls out the specific property type that that person has. In my experience, this gets us more deals because this person has probably never gotten a piece of mail calling out the asset type itself so directly. Chances are they're actually getting stuff that's like, I want to buy your house, when this isn't even a house. Now, in order to actually purchase this campaign, all we would do is simply go into here, enter in the number of records that we had in Propstream, which was 4640. Pick our style. I personally do handwritten on most of our stuff. Printed means it literally just comes out of the printer. Handwritten, it's actually written with robots. Next, you can pick if you want that to be in cursive or like a printed font. Cursive, like the old school, more scripty writing. I personally prefer that. I get a lot of compliments from seniors, but if you want cursive, great. If you want to go print, that's totally fine as well. I personally do cursive on most of my stuff. Now, if you click on this next one, you can actually type out and see what your mail piece would actually look like or change the copy. Quick kind of recommendation. The copy that's on this postcard stock is what I use that got these deals. Oftentimes people that don't really do a ton of marketing will want to like invent their own copy, and that's a risk. We don't know if your words or your copy is going to work on that particular asset class or not. So what we would do in this instance is just fill out the rest of this information. What's our marketing phone number? What's our name? What's our return mail address? That goes on like the top left corner of where your mail should go back to. I personally put my website on every single piece of mail that I send. We use a Carrot like concierge website, basically a custom template site for investors. That way people can see we're legit and all of that. You would simply add your mailing list right here. If you want us to verify it, that's totally fine. We'll go on and actually check records on your sheet to make sure that those people do in fact match those records and you've not messed anything up in your own kind of filtering of that data. And then on the mailing side, you'd pick how fast you want this to go out. We do have a new rush option, which is super cool if you've got something you want to get out in a hurry. We do have one other new feature here that I'd like to point out, which is this custom date ability. So you can actually decide like, hey, I want this to go out next month on the 1st, for instance. Now, this next section here is the digital proof, which is this that we've been working on right here. If you approve the proof, that means it is effectively good to print. You're happy with how it looks. One thing that's cool, kind of why we redid the site, that shaves like 2 business days of turnaround time off of most orders. You guys have been asking for faster turnaround times, and not only did we listen, we invested in the tech to make it a reality. Now, we can see on this particular campaign that it would have cost us roughly $5,000 to send out all of that mail, which we got 2 deals off of with a cost per acquisition of right at $2,500. I'm not mad at all. 44K on just one of those deals from like a return on ad spend perspective, that's just absurd. So this particular deal came off the Propstream list, got the Ballpoint piece of mail, and my staff at Call Porter took the inbound call. Here's just kind of a quick synopsis of their notes. So they provided the property address. They said that they're looking to sell because they own a 20-acre farm and they're hoping to move out there. They're curious to know what our offer is. They'd like to sell in the next 60 to 90 days. They claim they just had the 3-bedroom side renovated and it's in great shape, as well as that the 1-bedroom side needed some flooring and the bathroom needed put back together. The roof was 6 years old. Air conditioner was new. Furnace on the 3-bedroom side was also new, had new dishwashers. They've owned it inside the family for a few years now. They were living in the 1-bedroom side and the other side was currently vacant. Their asking price was $150,000, but flexible. The property was paid off. They were retired, so call whenever. Now, I mentioned that this particular deal was funded without any of our own capital. It was funded by one of our private investors, somebody just like you. The gentleman that actually funded this, I met on the internet. He funded tons of projects for me before we met in person. We paid 8% interest plus 1 origination point. An origination point is basically just 1% of the loan. So in order for him to fund this project, you got an upfront fee of like $1,470 and then 8% APR. This one was a super quick turn. We were in and out in right at 3 weeks. So not like a huge win on his part, but if we're able to do, several of those a year, that really adds up on an APR perspective for him. Now, a lot of folks will talk about private money like it makes it just super easy for them and risk-free. I'm here to tell you that that is not my heart at all. The folks that are funding our deals are often entrusting us with their life savings. I will lose money on a deal and kick in cash in order to make a lender whole, plus their return. In my history of investing, I've never defaulted on a loan or not paid somebody back their principal, plus all the agreed upon interest. There are tons of influencers and coaches online, even here on YouTube, that'll talk to you about how like, oh, you can do deals with none of your own capital. And while that's true, I think that it's more of like a goal or somewhere you want to end up versus a starting point. Early on in my career, I would partner with people. Hey, we'll go 50-50. You fund the deal, I bring the deal. Then it got to the point that it was like, I've got some of my own cash. I know what I'm doing. At that point, I can either use hard money or look for better terms when it comes to private money. One of the things we highly recommend is to have some skin in the game on your own projects. Pretty often lately, we'll fund the purchase with private money and we'll self-fund the remodel. That way, worst case scenario, if somebody's taking a loss, it's us and it's our money that we've already put into the deal. Now, an interesting thing with this project is they were owner occupying the duplex. They were living in one half and had the other half to rent out. They were literally house hacking, which I absolutely love for them, but it's worth noting that marketing to owner occupied duplexes is profitable. In fact, on this campaign we did, of the 2 deals that converted, both were owner occupants, not just straight rental properties. That's just a little free tidbit for you, but that might be a new niche list that I've never heard anybody talk about. If you want to learn how to raise your own private capital, something we teach inside of CCF, which I would love to have you in if you're somebody who's doing deals and ideally has done at least more than one. My heart there is I don't want to take money from newbies that have never done a deal and have them get upset. If you've done a deal, you know what it actually takes. If you haven't done a deal yet, just bowl in a china shop my free content here on YouTube. My rule, if somebody's free content doesn't make you money, what they're selling definitely sucks. If you need help raising private capital, I've got kind of this one pager I've put together on Google that I'll link to down in the comments, but it walks you through my lending packet template. That's the document we use to actually pitch our lenders. I'll give you a video explaining to our lenders how we pitch them on private money. I'll give you a copy of our note and mortgage. It's what you take to an attorney to make it legal for your state. I'll walk you through our private lender checklist, what documents you need to have lined up, how to make it so everything's legal and on the up and up, as well as even the Excel doc we use to calculate what their payoff is at time of sale. I've got an ebook for you that I share with my lenders. Basically all of that I'm just going to give you for free for thanking you for watching this video. I want to encourage you to be careful what you fall for or what you believe. I started this video out saying we made $44,000 in 3 weeks, which is accurate. It was 3 weeks from purchase to resale. However, the more realistic story was that this came off of marketing efforts that we did back in February. So literally like 8 months prior, from dollars spent on marketing to dollars back in on this. Secondly, I mentioned it didn't take any of our own capital, but we had to pay for that marketing campaign. We had to run the call, put gas and stuff in our vehicles. We've got support staff. There are costs to running this business. Even the private money side isn't something you're going to start out with from day one. It's something you're going to build up to. Real estate might be less sexy right now than it was during 2020, 2021, 2022, but it's still the best vehicle I found for the average person to make extraordinary amounts of income. I think that's one of the reasons you get so much BS. Anytime you have the ability to make a lot of money in a short amount of time, you get people that are full of it or would rather sell you the dream than actually practice it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me. If you haven't already, my name was Ryan Dossey. Be sure to like and subscribe and go buy some Ballpoint and roll some of these campaigns out in your own market.